Hello and welcome to this month's edition of Healthy Living in Baton Rouge, a program of the Mayor's Healthy Cities Initiative. Sponsored by Mayor Kip Holden, Healthy Living in Baton Rouge brings together our partners to share with you important health information so that we can continue to make Baton Rouge a healthier community. If any of our programs have been exciting to you in the past, you can go to our website at healthybr.com and you can pull up any of the previous programs for review. Today we have some exciting guests. We have Miss Gail Grover with the City Parish, and we have Mr. Brian Adams with Teach for America. And we're going to talk about something that's really very, very important for the broader Baton Rouge community, and it's how we are each other's keepers. Welcome, Gail. Welcome, Brian. I'm so glad to have y'all.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
All right, so we have a very exciting topic. We want to talk about why Mayor Holden signed on with President Obama's initiative about My Brother's Keeper.
Well, Colette, thank you again for having us on. This is an exciting opportunity for the city, and Mayor Holden, being who he is, knows that this was the right thing to do. In fact, Mayor Holden has been involved in the life outcomes of our children over the span of his tenure, and so this just falls in line with what he was already doing. And to join the country and the other mayors was just the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. This was a data-driven decision. We are looking at what's going on in our Baton Rouge community. And so some of the other efforts that Mayor Holden has already been involved in just set the path for the My Brother's Keepers Challenge.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Well, I think one of the things, and I think Gail pointed it out, we want to acknowledge that it's not anything new, right? What it's doing is pulling together a lot of the activities that are out there already. Now, there may be some new initiatives that come out of it, but we realize that there's a lot going on in our community now, a lot of people doing a lot of good work in our community now, and we want to continue to make that happen, see that happen, and continue to support and facilitate that.
And that's an interesting concept because that's really a lot of how some of the health movement has occurred
mm-hmm.
over the years. Good people doing great work, mm-hmm. and how do you align people
right.
to have a more rich or deeper impact
mm-hmm.
From the services that are done. So tell us a little bit more about My Brother's Keeper. In other words, what are the there are 6 primary areas of focus.
That's right.
Share with our community what those are, and what are the 2 that we chose?
Okay, so My Brother's Keeper kicked off in February of last year, and there had been a lot of groundwork done to establish how can we move forward in creating these better outcomes for our kids. And so there's decision points in a child's life where the activity that is going on in that particular stage has an impact on the outcome of his future. And so My Brother Keepers has 6 milestones that is the focus of the challenge. One is that all children enter school cognitively, physically, emotionally, and socially prepared for school. The second is that all children read on level by 3rd grade. And by the way, Mayor Holden selected these first 2 goals for the community, for Baton Rouge community. The third is that all young people graduate from high school. Fourth, all young people complete post-secondary education training, leading us up to our college level. All children and youth out of school are employed, so the focus of employment or higher education. And lastly, that all young people are safe from violent crimes.
And so Baton Rouge has, just as Brian said, there are many programs focused around these 6, you call them aims, for the program. So, but the 2 that we chose to focus in on are the early child interventions, ready to go, perform in school, and making sure they're reading.
That is correct. Our community, we are doing a lot to address the things that are going on with our young people. For instance, the Family and Youth Service Center. You know, that Mayor Holden was a part of creating that, which deals with truancy and high school dropouts. And then our BRAVE program that deals with our older kids who are involved with violent crimes that are related to gang or group. And then we have our BCJI grant, which deals with the drivers of crimes in communities. So we have been active along that spectrum. And so it's just natural that we wanted to start now with the younger, because we feel if we do this now, redirecting our kids at teenage years, we'll have less numbers that we're trying to redirect and keep out of that pipeline of the juvenile justice system.
So there's a special event that's going to be held, right? EduFest?
Yes, actually.
Why don't you tell us what that's about?
I was going to say, actually, we held EduFest on July 17th, and it was an awesome event. That was the kickoff and the launch of our local action plan. Okay. A part of the initiative, it required a 4-stage implementation, and the last of those 4 stages is to actually launch a local action plan for what each community will do regarding the milestones. And so we did that on July 17th.
Very successful.
Very successful. And Brian, you want to share a little bit about what you thought?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was really, it got kids involved, it got folks from the health community involved, it got parents involved, and it really was an exciting time for everybody. The kids enjoyed it. The kids learned about healthy eating. The kids had opportunities to sort of network and play with each other. So it was a really good opportunity to pull the entire community together and have people sort of understand what we're trying to do and be a part of it. And we had several people who came who said, I really want to be a part of this. How do I get involved?
Great, great. You always got to have a diving board or a launching pad for. So what's next? What are the additional activities that came out of the action plan day?
Right. So we want to prepare for the upcoming school year. And so now that we are past the EduFest, that was our first community engagement that connects to our milestones. Now we want to have cluster meetings with the different organizations from their perspective on connecting with My Brother the Keeper, whether it's with our medical community, our faith-based community, our social organizations, to help with the input and to build a community toolkit that will help us move forward with the milestones. We also want to connect with the elementary schools that are in our targeted area. We may have some new principals on board, and so we definitely want to build on that relationship. In addition to getting involved with volunteers in public schools and building that base of the readers that are actually needed for one-on-one with some of our younger kids.
Now, Volunteers in Public Schools already has a reading program, or Reading Friends. So assume that's the group that you're working with, or one of the groups that you're working with. Okay, good.
Yes. So they are one of the lead groups that we're working with. And let me give you an example. Last year in our targeted area, which is 70805, 70802, and 70806, there was a request from those schools of how many readers do you need for students. And so what ultimately happened is we were almost 400 short of having that one-on-one. We think that's a goal that we can meet. And so we're going to start this school year off trying to build that base for readers in our targeted area.
Good, good, because I know that there's a need.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes different organizations can bring different resources to the table, just like Teach for America.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And so if I'm out watching this program, how do I volunteer or get involved?
Okay, so I would say, first of all, keep your ears open for our messaging, that we are beginning our conversation on developing our cluster meetings, and so we will use avenues such as our show today to let the public know what's coming up, and they can definitely contact either Brian or I. Here at the mayor's office, we will share additional information with them, and as we continue to build on our community partners, then the outlet for information will also grow. We definitely want to work with our school systems, and so as we build relationships with the principals this year, we will be hopeful that that will be another avenue of finding out how you can help with My Brother's Keeper.
Okay, and so measurement's important. We always have to know how we're going to evaluate, are we making progress. So in your action planning, would you like to share with our audience what y'all came up with as far as how we'll measure our success?
Sure. And Brian, you want to share a little bit about that?
Well, first we're still defining some of that, because as we bring together more people to be involved in the program, we want to make sure what we do really it's sort of concerted effort in that we're all sort of on the same page. But some of the things we're looking at, for instance, with one of the challenge, all children read at grade level by the 3rd grade. And some of the information we're going to pull in our targeted area is seeing where children are right now. So if we see where they are now, and we have that measuring point, as we reach out to people who want to be involved and reach out to other partners, we can say, here's the line. Now, we need to make sure we're doing something to push that bar up. So we're still in the process of gathering all of that data to say we need a starting point for measurement. We have that starting point for measurement. Now we can start figuring out what levers we need to pull to make that bar raise.
Right. And so volunteers, VIPs with their Reading Friends program and things that you all do, will just coordinate those efforts, right?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I understood.
Yes, initially, and we do have our research partners on who will help us to collect that data and be able to analyze where the next step should be in moving forward.
Good, good. And so, there's usually a cost to these types of programs. How are they being funded?
Well, My Brother's Keeper is a national unfunded initiative, but now that's not to say that President Obama did not account for how do we have dollars in order to build capacity on programs that we may have or create and generate new programs. And so not only was the challenge to communities and to our leaders and to our mayors, but there was also a challenge to business and communities, philanthropic communities and organizations to join the challenge, and they have. They've stepped up to the plate, and we have millions of dollars that are coming through those organizations that will be available for communities to engage and to apply. And so we are hopeful that here in Baton Rouge we'll be able to reach out to some of those dollars as well.
To fund resources that are needed.
Absolutely. And then because we're working collaboratively together, then even grant opportunities, we have our core partnerships together. And so the next step on being competitive, I think we will be strong.
I believe the last, and you can check it on the the White House's website, but the last time I looked, I believe they had commitments to the tune of about $500 million from foundations saying that they're willing to commit to this effort also to the tune of $500 million, and they're continuing to work with more foundations and get more dollars committed.
Well, that's exciting because unfunded programs, as wonderful as they can be, you have to figure out how do we make that thing, how do we make it work or sustainable. Well, we're going to take a real short break, and then when we come back, we're going to understand more about what it means to be My Brother's Keeper in Baton Rouge. Welcome back to the second portion of our program today. Continuing with us is Mr. Brian Adams with Teach for America. So Brian, I want to talk a little bit more about EduFest and the kids that we're targeting and just kind of get a little bit more deeper information around that. So we talked about lots of community partners. We're at EduFest. Who were some of those partners?
Well, to just give you an idea of some of the ones, and I sort of hate to do it in fear of missing someone, but
right,
I'm
in
segments,
We
had BREC on the go.
Right.
They were there. We had pediatricians who were there. We had behavioral health organizations who were there. Eye Care was there. VIPs, Volunteer in Public Schools, was there. Rehabilitation Food was there. And we really talked about healthy food with the kids and spent some time showing them different foods and what's healthy and what's not. We had Healthy Baton Rouge, we had a dental office, United Way was there, so we had several fraternities that were there, so we had quite a turnout from the community.
Good, good. Now, one of the things that a focus of this group with My Brother's Keeper is really young African-American males, correct?
That is correct,
okay,
yes.
So, would you please share with our audience why we came to this conclusion and decision that this is My Brother's Keeper is really focused around young black males?
Well, when you look at the statistics, and some of the statistics I'll talk about will be sort of citywide and some will be for our focus area, but when you look at the statistics, it was a little surprising to me to see that 96% of the children who go to the youth detention center over the last 5-year period were children of color, which to me says there's something there that we need to look at. Something's just not right there. When you start looking at our targeted area, which is zip codes 70802, 70805, and 70806. When you start looking at that area and looking at that area compared to the city-wide statistics, the numbers are just a little higher in that area. So for instance, the overall unemployment rate for the city is about 10%. The unemployment rate for that area is right around 13%. When you look at the population under 18 who are between the ages of 0 to 8, the overall city, it's about 50%. In that area, it's about 53%. When you look at the percentage of children under 5 living in poverty, in that area, it's about 32%. Citywide, it's about 26%. And then the last piece is when you look at sort of the children of color in that area, it's about 77%, compared to about 60% citywide. So this is our focus area, and I think what we hope is when we get the positive results and we start making a difference in this area, we set a platform to be able to move into other areas. So it's not that we're trying to exclude or not target other areas, but starting small with the hopes of one day getting bigger.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. And so you all have the action plan that was born out of the EduFest Day.
Right.
You guys are posting it on the Healthy BR website?
It will be posted on the Healthy BR website, and I would encourage everyone looking to go out and look at that plan. And I would encourage everyone to be active and help participate in that plan. I think it's going to take all of us working together to make that plan come to life.
Yeah, and since it focuses on reading, everyone has, what Gail said, 400 supported teaching needs.
Yes, that's what VIPS saw in that area, I believe, last year, because they were trying to get folks to go out in that area to read to kids and be a part of reading with kids, and they were about 400 people short. So we believe with this initiative we can help sort of pull folks together and help fill that gap and help fill that void. So again, the My Brother's Keeper initiative really isn't doing new stuff. It's taking stuff that we're already doing and saying, how do we sort of help enhance it? How do we help bring more resources to the table to get done? I mean, we know what needs to get done, and sometimes it's the resources that are needed to make those things happen. So hopefully through My Brother's Keeper, we can help get resources where resources are needed.
And so to this point in time, how are you all working with the new superintendent of East Marist Parish Schools, and we're just getting ready to start a new school season?
Well, part of our plan is to reach out to the schools in those areas and to reach out to the principals in those areas to see what help they need from us. So while we haven't started at the superintendent's level, we are going to start at the school level and work with those who are working directly with the children and be a part of their solution. I mean, there are things that they need, there are things that we know we can help them with. We just need to get with them and find out what are they, how can we help, how can we be an active participant in what you're doing with kids.
And so how many schools are in those zip code areas? It's about there's 55 elementary schools, so there's a pretty good number of schools that people can volunteer with to help with the reading. So, reading is one of those things, but the very first one talked about a cognitive, emotional, physical, being ready to learn. And so that includes health, as you said. There were pediatricians there.
Yeah, correct.
So that 5210 plus 10 message for the kids about eating healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables and getting physical activity and not spend a lot of time on a computer for gaming and getting good sleep.
And that's what we had at EduFest. They had the physical activity. Breck on the Go was there. We had the healthy eating. And then Also, Big Baby was part of, or is part of, the initiative, and he has his reading tour. So the kids were given books, they were given flashcards for spelling. I mean, so just pulling everything together, or trying to pull everything together to say, you know, how do we make this work?
And Big Baby Glenn Davis has been such a supporter of the youth in our community for years. He's done healthy eating. It's at the farmer's market, promoting healthier eating with kids and working with them there. So it's good to see him in the education and teaching component part with reading and stuff. And so as we prepare for school this year, if I were a mom or a grandmother or an aunt and I saw today's program about wanting to make sure that my son, my grandchild, my nephew participated in My Brother's Keeper, what do I do with that desire?
I think what you'll have to first start out with is seeing what's happening at the schools, because the starting point will be the schools, and seeing, you know, two things. One, programs that are at the school like Big Buddy or like VIPS. How do you not only get your kids involved in those programs, but how do we as adults and as parents become active in those programs also, so that, you know, we not only are getting active in those programs for our kids' sake, but active in those programs for other kids' sake also. So the starting point would be looking at your school, because as I said, we're not going to, in the short term, you're not going to see any additional programs coming into the school, but you will see a heightened awareness of some of the ones that are there. So if you were one of the parents who didn't have a reader for your kid, and that those 400 readers that VIPS was short, we're pushing to say next year you will have a reader for your kid. So stay tuned with what's happening at school.
So seek first to understand what are all the resources available within our schools today, and then see how we can become involved and engaged. Okay. Well, so the action plan is focused around those two areas. Can you share with us just a little bit about what that action plan might look like?
Well, right now, the action plan really, we're still in the state of putting a lot more meat to it, a lot more detail to it, because, you know, as Gail mentioned, we still have other organizations that are coming to the table. We're still pulling together all of the resources. We're still looking at the data to say, you know, what's the data telling us. So we're still working to finalize those plans, but we are aggressively working with organizations like VIP and the Big Buddy program to say, okay, what do you need now? School's about to start. How do we start sort of pulling resources together now, so that when school opens, you can basically hit the ground running with your programs?
And it will take all of us working from our very different perspectives to do that. So with Teach for America, that's where you work.
Yes.
Tell us, share with our audience Teach for America's, you know, support for a role within our Brother's Keepers.
Well, we don't have a direct role with My Brother's Keeper other than the role we provide, where we provide teachers into classrooms, and we have teachers that will be in classrooms in some of these schools, teaching elementary school, teaching early childhood education. So we sort of work to train teachers so that they can be sort of efficient and effective in the classroom, and some of those teachers may need, say, help from, say, the Big Buddies program or from the VIPS program, and some of the volunteers that may volunteer for these programs will, in a certain aspect, be working with some of these teachers.
Well, I know it's important to have many different partners at the table, so please pass along to your organization our thanks for being a part of this.
Oh, definitely.
So as we begin to wrap up from our segment today, Brian, if you would, you know, you're passionate about making a difference with kids. Why this program? Why you?
Well, it's not just me. I think it's all of us. I mean, you asked the question, am I my brother's keeper? And my answer to that is definitely yes, because I look at all of us. You know, no matter where we are in life, no matter how successful we may or may not be at times, somebody was there to help us, somebody was there to support us, somebody was there to encourage us, somebody was there to at times push us when we needed the push that we need. So I think it is our responsibility to do whatever we can to help our brother, to help our fellow community members. And if there's something I can do to help, okay, what is it? How do I do it? And I encourage others to look and see, because there's something we can all do. I mean, we don't all have sort of the same expertise in the same areas, but we're all experts in our own right, where we can contribute, and all of our contributions are valuable. So for me, it's like, it goes back to that, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I think we all have a responsibility to help our community, to help especially our children.
And so thank you for joining us today.
It is a pleasure.
Look forward to hearing more about My Brother's Keeper in the future. We have, as we prepare along with, say, My Brother's Keeper to get ready for back to school, there's a lot going on across the community, and so there are many, many, many back to school events. So please make sure that your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, that we take advantage of all the resources that are available in our community for back to school. You can go to the Mayor's Healthy City website and you can see where many of those programs are posted. Assistance with back to school backpacks, with supplies that are needed. A lot of those things are available in the back to school programs. Very much important. Also is that we sign our consent forms. So if you have children in the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, please make sure to send those signed consent forms home so they can get their immunizations, or they can get their flu shots and the different things that are needed in order to stay healthy and stay in school. So as we prepare to go back to school, you heard Brian talking about some of the stuff that happened at EduFest. It's also an opportunity for us to talk about 5210+10, making sure that all of our children have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day, that 0 sugary sweetened drinks are a part of their diet, physical activity at least an hour a day, cutting down that screen and play time on a computer to 2 hours or less, and then making sure that they get plenty of rest and sleep. 10 hours for young kids are what's recommended. So making sure that we start out the school year in a really healthy mode. To help us with some of that, we can also go to the Red Stick Mobile Farmers Market on Saturdays. The Mobile Farmers Market's taking a break in August as they get prepared for the fall growing season, but the Saturday Farmers Market is always on Saturday mornings from 8 till noon at the corner of 5th and Main. Healthy Baton Rouge is happy to announce that we received an American Hospital Association NOVA Award for the collaborative work taking place in Baton Rouge, and so we want to thank all of our partners who made this possible. My Brother's Keeper is just one example of how we communicate, collaborate, and coordinate across our community to make a bigger impact. So while you're checking out those back-to-school events, Councilman Donna Collins Lewis has an event on August the 1st from 10 till noon at the Breck Milton Womack Park. Brandon Bass's event will be at Breck's Progress Park from 11 to 2 also on the 1st. State Representative Ted James will have his 4th annual Partnering to Keep Children First Back to School Bash on August the 2nd from 12 to 4 at the Breck North Sherwood Forest Community Park. And then Jess's Bra Closet Back to School giveaway is on the 8th from 12 to 2 at the Goodwood Main Library. And she's giving out undergarments and toiletries for women of all ages. Healthy BR has started a community newsletter. When you go to our website, you can sign up for it there, and you can just check out our website for any other information that you may need. We want to thank you all for joining us. We want to thank Brian, and we'll also thank Miss Gail for being present with us to share what it means to be My Brother's Keeper here in Baton Rouge. So thank you.